Hello, and welcome to the demo of the Role Policy app. By default, when you install a new module in Odoo, a user has access to that module. The Role Policy app is a game changer in the sense that as long as no specific access rights for a module have been granted to a certain role, users in that role will not have access to the module. To show you an example, you see a number of roles that will be used in our database. Most of them are empty for now. I will show you the sales inbound employee, and as you see here, he has no access rights at all. I will show you what the sales inbound employee can see. I log in to my database, and even when I search for menus, the SIE is not able to see anything. The Role Policy app allows you to define roles through the user interface or by importing a spreadsheet. The Role Policy app, and that is new compared to last year, also allows you to add security on client actions, such as reconcile. I will show you an example here in the system. So you can add the reconcile option to, for instance, the administration employee. And this is not allowed by standard Odoo. To start configuring a role, it may be best to just add all the things you need from the user interface. For example, add a line on menu item level. Here, you can select detailed menus. You don't have to apply all menus to a role, but you can just select, for instance, a sales menu with some sub-menus and no purchase menu. If you add menus here, I'll show you an example. I'll add the sales menu. Of course, you need to add the top level and then the base level menus. I will show you an example just with a few menus. You can add them to save. And now you can easily export your results. The export can be used to define your role afterwards. For the demo, I already created a spreadsheet for the sales inbound employee, so I'm going to remove these. On OCA level, you simply add the model and you define read, write, create, delete access. You can activate a rule, you can delete it on entry, or you can delete an entry on import. And when configuring your spreadsheet, you don't have to apply the name. For instance, here you see an example for the DM, but it's the same for the SIE. Of course, in my example, I have defined these names, but you don't have to do that, because if you just import it and export it again, the names will be applied by the system. On menu item level, when you do it manually, you don't need anything. You don't need to know anything about the external identifier that you find in IR menu. But if you use the spreadsheet, you will have to define the external identifier to import the menu. You can import individual sheets. You select your file, SIE, and you can select the tab that you want to import. But here, since I did not import anything for this role, I will import the entire spreadsheet. While importing, the system will do some tests. Suppose that you have added a rule for an MRP module, which is not installed on your system, then the system will tell you and throw you an error message. It will, of course, import all other tab pages without errors. In this way, you can just change the spreadsheet for the tab concerned, and then you can import that sheet only. Let me explain you something more about view modifier rules and what the power of these rules can be. I return to my database. I refresh, because I've been importing the SIE role, and now you see that some menus appear. Okay. I will create a new customer, and as you see, the street field is a mandatory field. I will enter some data. And you see that I have some mandatory fields, just like the email and the contract type, which is of course a specific field. I add a physical position with no VAT required. Should I change it to VAT required, you will see that the tax ID becomes mandatory too. I will save, and then I see that I need to add a customer price list. So for all mandatory fields, the system will throw a message. Okay, I add the price, I save again, and I confirm my partner. I now return to the customer and contacts menu. I see my partner here. I open it. I click edit. And now I see that the address block is read-only. Let me show you how I did that with the role policy. I return to my SIE role and I go to the View Modifier Rules. On contact level, you see that I have added the field name is street. On a required level, I put a 1, which means that the field is always required for the SIE. And here I put that the state should be different from draft or different from draft and delivery contact is true. So only in case when the state is draft, the SIE will be able to change the street. So that is how it is set up. Let's switch to the data manager. I've also applied a number of inactive rules just to show you in an easy way how these things work. You see, I have 3 inactive rules. As a data manager, I will change my profile. I have several roles in my profile, so here I can say which role is the enabled role and thus the role in which I'm working with. I change to the data maintenance officer. The system refreshes and you see that I have a lot more menus. I go to sales, products, and I see that on a product level I have reordering rules, but I don't want my data manager to see reordering rules. So, how can I find what I have to define here in the XPath? Well, we go to the views. I select a model. I know it's a form view, and in the view architecture, I know there will be something like reordering. I see 2 views, so I end up in the procurement template, and I see that when I search for reordering, I see that it happens twice. So you see that the reordering rules have 2 different buttons. I want them to be hidden on both levels. So I need to add an XPath expression to hide button name action view order points the first occurrence and then the second occurrence. So I will activate these rules. I will return to my data manager. I refresh. I open my product again and the reordering button is gone. You might have noticed that on a Kanban level, I have the price label and no prices because I've been hiding the price. Of course, that's a bit ridiculous, so I don't want the price label to be there. So how can I do that? I'll go to my other browser. I see that I've already created an inactive rule. I know that it's on the product template Kanban view. The view type is automatically set, and I know that the expression which displays the price label is ULLY. So what do? I say I want this label to be invisible. I click active, I save, I return to my Kanban, I refresh, label is gone. You might have noticed that we also have tabs for view type attributes and view model operations. Now, what is the difference between the two? View model operations are defined on a model basis, so for a complete object, or for all objects by using default. With view type attributes, you can hide attributes on the main view level, allowing you to change or override attributes of the main view. I will show you what it looks like in my database. On a product level, I see the import button. I also see it on the tree view. I go back to my view model operations. I click edit. And I want to add a default on which I hide the import option. So I select the model default, which will apply to all models. I click the operation import and disable is activated by default. I go back, I refresh my screen, and you will see that the import button is gone, both in list view and on Kanban view. Of course, I can also make exceptions. Here I have hidden the archive option on the default level, meaning that my data maintenance officer will not be able to archive records. But of course I want my data maintenance officer, who is responsible for creating and maintaining products, to be able to archive products. So I add an exception on the model product template saying that archive is allowed. I already prepared this, so I will just activate the rule. I go back to my screen, I refresh, and here I have the archive option. For the DM, I did not add any ACLs on lead tags, for instance. But of course, my data maintenance officer needs to be able to create lead tags. I go to CRM, configuration, tags, and I see that my DM does not have any create, read, write, update. So I go back to my role, I add an ACL on lead tag, I give create, read, write, and delete writes, I save. I return to my screen, I refresh, and now I am able to create lead tags. This is yet another powerful option of our role policy app. Just let me tell you something about the power of model methods. As AE, I cannot post. I will add a develop method for posting, and only then I will be able to post. This is